We have a new build and a recently announced and maybe a much needed change. And on top of that, while the world first race is over, well, there's still a lot of bitching to be done. Hey, it's Soul. It's July 28th, 2017. This is Warcraft Weekly, and let's just jump right into it. Actually, I'm just kidding. How was your week, everyone? I was kind of fighting off flies for a good chunk of the week, and at least regarding my team, well, we kind of got curb stomped by the Avatar fight. We were really close, though. We were really close. I'm sure we're going to get it next week and start progressing through kil'jaden, but still, good job on the team for getting as far as they did and getting some really meaningful progression in. And next week,
we're going to have our fucking vengeance.
As always, I love it when you guys share your thoughts, your wins, your losses, and what have you. Unfortunately, still no contest because I really wanted to celebrate 7,000 subscribers, but at least as of this recording, I'm just a little bit short, so it's probably going to come next week. Stay tuned for that. This week's featured YouTube was submitted by you guys, the viewers, and this week we have Infectious Gaming. Infectious Gaming is a very rogue-centric channel that covers all the specs. He, like so many others, has a snazzy little intro with skaboosh, you know, that sort of thing, and someday, guys. I know I featured a rogue channel before. I believe it was Census YouTube that I was featuring. But hey, this is something that you guys had submitted, so hey, why not? I took a look at the channel, of course, and while rogues aren't really my cup of tea, like, I'm very anti-stealth, he goes very in-depth with his favorite class. He's going over all the latest stuff that's going on the 7.3 PTR. I think you should take a look if you're interested in learning a little bit more about rogues, or of course, if you're interested in additional perspectives. Give Infectious Gaming a shot, you might like him, and as always, if you have other YouTubers that are pretty small that you think deserve a little bit more attention, send them my way, I'll take a look, and I'll try to feature them in a future weekly. Now, as for the content that I've been putting out this week, I admit that it was very, very light. It was mostly focused on all the progression that I did the previous week, and I was just kind of trying to play catch-up with all sorts of tanking point of views. However, I did manage to squeeze out a small curated list of suggestions that I have for Blizzard on how they can improve the World of Warcraft. I asked for additional suggestions that you had for me, and this is what you had. I'm going to summarize most of these comments, starting with Chaucer, who wants to revamp Titan Forging. He admits that it's here to stay, so let's make it a bit more controlled and a little bit less frustrating. He also suggests more tertiary stats and gear enhancements and no more random legendaries. X-Man Zavasi suggests having World Quest be in Worldly next expansion, meaning that they can show up anywhere in the world. The appropriately named That Sweet Sansa Booty says to just remove RNG stats and RNG gem slots. Breckner Catalan suggests to remove all chat channels, and there, WoW is now 100% toxic free. Blood71 says that so many of his friends would actually play again if they went back to flying requirements the way they were in Wrath of the Lich King. Juntus Gaming thinks they should close servers. Matthew Lawrence would want consumables to be traded cross-realm. A lot of people have fantastic and simple ideas, and they don't have to necessarily be like entire game changers like the one I'm probably going to do next week. Stay tuned for that. But if there are any small or simple changes that you think would help improve the World of Warcraft, well, feel free to share them. Just the other day, the good folks at Exorsus put up a pretty meaty piece of feedback over on Reddit. They talked about the Mythic World First race, and again, they just gave a lot of feedback regarding the Tomb of Sargeras raid, and just a bunch of Legion stuff overall. In so few words, from their perspective, they sum up all the different kinds of complaints, the different general kinds of complaints that people have had about Legion. Things like legendaries and RNG and Titanforge, and a good bulk of the post is very relatable, and there's a lot of people that agree with it, including me. There are a few line items there that do speak from their perspective as, you know, as a top rating guild, but at the same time they feel incredibly disconnected from the rest of the players with regards to some of their suggestions. One is about the lockout system. Making you only eligible for loot once per week on all difficulties can solve a lot of issues, and that does make sense from a world first raider kind of standpoint. Split running is, in so few words, just a bunch of alts funneling gear to mains by running the same raids over and over again, where you have half your raid pretty much hoard all of the loot. From there, the mains switch to their alts, and the alts switch to their mains, and then they do it again. And they do multiple split runs so that these small groups can get tons and tons of loot, all in a matter of a week. Again, that makes sense. It makes progression a heck of a lot faster, and it takes the months and months and months that it used to take to gear, well, it reduces that to, well, just about a week. However, despite the notoriety around this practice, there's not a lot of people that do it. This is a world first problem, not something that little bums like me have to deal with. Loot locking, regardless of difficulty, as the GM suggests, will do very weird things. For example, I, a transmog slut, won't be able to farm for certain colors of gear because I have to take my tune over to the progression raids that we're doing. The method to go around that would be for me to roll an alt, get him to max level, get him ready for LFR, and then farm that. And to be honest, I'm not going to care to do that. And I'm speaking from my perspective as a non-split raider person, but yeah, something like that just doesn't jive with me at all. I don't think leveling an alt for the sake of getting transmog is a good idea. And this would be a scenario that affects many more users than the ones who comprise of the world first or the competitive raiding scene. I don't think it's totally irresponsible for them to make this sort of statement with regards to loot locking for every difficulty, but it does speak to the disconnection from the world first scene compared to the non-world first scene. Split raiding is a problem, but it's a problem of their own creation. The other complaint that didn't really connect with me was their thing on the legendary upgrade system. I do kind of get it. A world first raider has multiple tunes in their stable who probably have all their specs accessible, who probably have all the legendaries available too. So on top of that, when you have to upgrade them as soon as a new patch drops, of course it's going to feel a little bit daunting. At the same time though, what's wrong with having to make a hard decision? Yes, there are multiple ways to kind of grind out the things that you need in order to upgrade each of these legendaries per tune, per spec, and whatever. But here they're suggesting that everything just be upgraded instantly for free with, well, for free. And again, this is a big disconnect from the larger portion of players. The GM is right with the complaints, but regarding the solution, it's just not something that really takes into factor all the players in WoW. It's unfortunate too, because I do support the competitive side of raiding these no-lifer tryhards that are, you know, trying to get their little moment of fame. These players perform at a professional level in a game where the systems are mostly catered to a more casual audience. And I haven't really been sold on a solution that addresses like some of these major points. I just don't have anything. So let's finally move on to some of the 7.3 content. There wasn't a whole lot going on with system updates. We had this mini update about the Netherlight Crucible where that little tiny window is just meant for us to preview relics. Like that makes sense. But it does have me thinking about the future of relics in 7.3. As we know, relics up till now have two things to focus on, whether or not it's going to give you an item level boost for your weapon, or if it's going to give you a decent trait upgrade. The fact that we'll be able to preview these relics at least tells me that, depending on the relics that we have in there, the bonuses within the Netherlight Crucible are going to be a little bit different. So this makes me wonder if item level is going to be secondary, or are players really going to have to make harder and harder choices when it comes to choosing relics between, you know, one that has like a decent item level and another one that has, you know, that unlocks certain kinds of traits. Should I trade item level for the traits or the traits for the item level? I don't know. Personally, and this is coming from someone who just doesn't know everything about the Netherlight Crucible or what it's going to be all about, I question whether or not we even need the damn thing. Yes, it's another layer of complexity for our artifact weapons. It's something more to do. It's something that's going to make artifact power matter a little bit more. And I'm glad that they're adding more agency of choice when it comes to the one thing that we can customize on our artifact weapons, which are the relic slots. But is this too much? I don't know. I'm hoping that this ends up being kind of a test bed for whatever the heck feature that they're thinking of for a future WoW expansion. But at the moment, I'm just not sold. A few minor events have been occurring on the PTR. Doomsayers are coming back, ranting off about all sorts of random hoodawatses, mostly regarding the Legion. At the same time, as soon as you log in, Magni Bronzebeard summons you over to the Cuts, over in Sholazar Basin for some Titan-related scenario lore stuff. Now I know that Blizzard is just kind of releasing stuff as they go for the sake of testing, but at the same time I am really curious about how this timeline is going to go. Like, where does Magni Bronzebeard, where does he sit in all of this? When do the Doomsayers show up? I'd love to have a kind of sort of timeline as to, you know, when these things are going to be released, when they're going to be unlocked, because I am absolutely confident that there is going to be gated weekly stuff that's going to occur on top of all the usual things that we're going to be doing. The zones are pretty cool. There are a lot of things to do. Heck, even the third zone is a primarily a mostly elite kind of zone where all the world quests are elite tagged, and some of the rares that are there, some of them can get pretty, well, some of it can get pretty hairy. But I really want to avoid a 7-2 situation where we just had a lot of stuff and it was front loaded, and then there's like just all the repeatable stuff like the world quest and all that, and that's about it. I really want to avoid that kind of scenario from happening. This week, as you might have noticed, we had the same world boss that we had, I think, the previous week. And I think previous to that, we had Withered Jim, I think twice in a row. In response to the expected complaints, Blizzard announced that they're going to have a fixed schedule of how the world bosses are going to be deployed when 7.3 launches. This is kind of a good thing. Kind of a good thing. I think of it more like a first step. It's cool that the bosses are going to deploy on a fixed and predictable schedule. At the same time though, if you miss that 1 week, well shit, you gotta wait like pretty much the whole rotation until they come back again, and that could take a while. I think Blizzard should take this a little bit further and straight up reduce the schedule. Make these world bosses deploy sooner, like in a 3-day gap instead of a 7-day gap. After all, the gear that they drop isn't going to be updated according to a blue post. World bosses are just linked to the tier that they're attached to, and well, there's no need to update the item level because hey, there are more world bosses on the Broken Shore, and there's going to be more that are coming to Argus. I think. So if they were to shorten the schedule from like 7 days to 3 days, or something reasonable like that, cool. So that's it for this weekly, and again, thank you for watching. Special thanks goes out to our newest patron, Andrew Miner. Thanks a ton for your contribution, and I hope to not let you down. I love doing what I do, and I don't want to stop, so if you want to support me as a patron, hey, there's going to be a link below, and I'd appreciate you at least taking a visit. Otherwise, of course, support me the best way that you know how. Like and share this video, leave a comment, subscribe, and help me crush that 7,000 mark. Next week, since I have no progression done, you can expect a little bit more of the usual content, including maybe some guides on paladins, and maybe a controversial suggestion that I have for the World of Warcraft. Otherwise, catch me for whatever the heck content or streams that I put out, or hit me up on social media if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions. I'm out for the weekend, so everyone stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy. Yeah, some witty shit there.